Hey guys, so we are gonna dial it back from a standard tutorial to breaking it down into the basics. Now I'm hoping this will be, it's probably going to be a longer video, but I'm hoping it'll be a little bit more interactive and a little bit more fun. So Friday the 1st I went to the SVA and I sat down with a friend of mine, Mary Wagner, who is the author of the Finnegan the Circus Cat books. And she was telling me that it was especially intimidating for her to draw the illustrations in her book because she's not a natural visual artist. That's not her natural forte. So she had to go and she said that what she did in order to kind of break down the disciplines on how to draw her cat and her main characters is that she literally went to the children's department at the library and picked up a how to draw cats book for kids. And you know what? Some may chuckle and others may go, well, that makes sense. But for those that are really kind of laughing and saying, well, she picked up a kid's book, it doesn't really matter if you're a kid or an adult. Learning how to see objects in your paintings and your illustrations and your compositions, and learning how to break down 3D objects into 2D small, simple shapes is basically a very fundamental thing in drawing. And I started my channel thinking, well, a lot of people just like watching me draw. So I've been kind of all over the board with, you know, do I want to do charcoal or watercolor or acrylic or, you know, what's going to get me the most views. And so I'm going to just try this and see if this one sticks to the wall. So the whole point of this video is to kind of help you as aspiring artists learn to see objects and be able to break them down into simple shapes. Now, Mary was not the first artist who I've talked to in recent months who has said that she has trouble visualizing things the way other artists visualize them, and that is to see things and be able to break them down into like negative and positive space, break them down into perspective, and or break them down into simple shapes. So this first exercise, we're going to break this dog down, and yeah, I have it up in Photoshop, but that's because I did go through and break this dog down. This is a little mixed breed dog, she's a little senior citizen. This was for a photo shoot that I did for Rough Academy about 2 years ago. And so I thought, well, dogs are real popular, and this one's kind of difficult. It could be exceptionally overwhelming for a novice artist or a beginning artist because the dog here has a lot of long hair on its ears. It has a ruff around its neck that is poking out from its sweater, and the face is actually at a 3/4 perspective. And the way that you can tell that the face is at a 3/4 perspective is that you can see both eyes. So let's give some terminology to things here. So when I say, let's get a new layer going so I don't wreck anything. All right, here we go. Oops. There, now I'll be not working on my original. So when I say like a 3/4 perspective, what I'm saying is that you can, my pencil tool here, I'll make that a little bit bigger, not that big. you can see this is where the eyes are, and you can see the bridge of the nose right here. So you've got a full frontal view of the muzzle here. You can see both eyes, and you can, if this is the center line of the skull right here, okay, you can see both halves of the skull. Now, if this was a direct side view, you would not be able to see this eye at all, and you would have no real view of the front of the muzzle. A really good perspective in both eyes, but for a beginning artist can seem especially overwhelming in the area of foreshortening and how to troubleshoot stuff. So we're going to break this down into, this is going to seem really, really hard and really, really over the top. So my first question is, for all of those artists that are looking to train their eye, how many shapes do you think it takes to break this little mixed breed down? I'll give you a clue. It is more than 10, less than 20. Alright, you guys kind of got an idea of how many shapes you think you want to go with? So usually when they tell you to draw a dog, and this is considered a portrait or a bust, they tell you to kind of start with the skull. So here is our rough circle for the skull. Now, if this was a side view or a full-on frontal view, we could end it with one single circle. So this is going to encompass the lower jaw here, and then the crest of the top of the head, okay? But we have a problem, and that problem lies in, we also have this area of the skull over here, so we need a second half of the skull, so we have this one here. So there's two. Now, we're going to take this one back out because usually people will say, well, let's go with the skull and then let's establish the muzzle. So then we have a trapezoid that establishes the angle of the muzzle. So this line right here follows the bridge of the nose down to a point in the snout, like right on the edge of this nostril here, follows the line of the outer lip, so this is the lip farthest away from us, and then kind of parallels off to the line in the lip, kind of encompassing this lower jaw. Now notice that we do lose this bottom jaw right here, but don't worry, that's why there's more than 10 shapes here. Okay? So usually people will have you do that, but this is where people get confused with that 3/4 view. So we're going to put that other shape in that indicates the skull. Okay? So now here's the thing that we're going to kind of do, is that we're going to erase like some of these lines that are super confusing and honestly just basically just get in the way. So we don't need this whole line here, we only need it there. The muzzle line, we only need it to right here. Okay, so the rest of this is just, it's just nonsense. We're just gonna blow this up a lot more. Okay, and then this outside skull piece's first circle, we're going to erase right here. See, so now this is making a lot more sense. And even now, I've got this point in the skull here. I think I'm even going to go with kind of getting rid of it here. And maybe up through here, because really that pretty much is encompassing all of this. All right, so now we're at 4 and we've gotten rid of our overlapping lines. All right, so now we need a nose. So that, of course, is a triangle. And we will just, oops, sorry about that. We will just kind of erase the parts here that are just a little bit more than we need. Okay, so then puppy has a nose. All right, so we've kind of got a general feel for this. And we're sitting at 2, 3, 4 shapes. All right, but now this dog's head and its muzzle are just floating off into space. So now we have to kind of give it a neck, and on this dog, it's got a lot of this right here. Okay. So before we get all into this right here, we're just going to give it a general shape. Keep in mind, we're trying to keep this nice and easy. So we're going to get rid of this. We'll work on those lines of motion in a minute. So now we're at a ruff. So we need another line here to kind of encompass all of this fur here. And there we go. So this kind of encompasses everything, but again, we've got extra line here. So we're going to get rid of all of this because all of this is extra. Okay. And actually, once we get out of the neck, like right about here, because now you can see this is actually part of the ear. The ear and the ruff that comes up into the side of the head kind of become one thing. So now we're there with that. Well, you could stop your portrait with this ruff, but this, if we're recreating this in particular picture, we have to incorporate the chest. So we're looking at this area down here. So we have another oval. Okay. Now, once again, we have extra, so we can get rid of all of this. Okay, because we really only need that much. All right, well, now that we've kind of gotten that established, we need this dog to have a line back here, so we're back with ovals again. And once we establish, we really only need this oval to establish the arc in the back. So once we're done establishing that, the rest of this is garbage. This is why artists, you'll see them lightly sketching, and things seem to go so quick for them. And then artists who are very much still learning the building blocks are just struggling and mesmerized, and this is why when artists draw, it seems like magic. All right, so now we've got these two kind of angles in this trapezoid figure that formed the muzzle, which again reinforces that 3/4 foreshortening view. Actually, rather than two parallel kind of lines, which is what this muzzle is. I'm sure it does taper a little bit, and it's not perfectly parallel, but more to the point is there's a lot of foreshortening going on here. Okay, so now we kind of have to make this look less straight, because clearly we lost the chin area here. So now we're going to put in, wait for it, another little oval. Okay. That kind of establishes the chin, but of course we don't need the whole oval. So we can go up on here, and then we can get rid of of this, okay? All right, now you can actually get rid of this over here too. And then we're going to go down and we're going to erase probably this line right here. Oops, see, I'm still on the wrong layer. Oop. Muzzle, wrong layer. So we're going to kind of erase this right here because I don't really need it anymore. All right, so what else do we need? So then the dog needs lips. Guess what? Oval for the win, because we're looking at the contour line of this lip right here. But again, we don't need the whole thing. So once we get up into the nose and through the cheek, we can pretty much toss this. Okay. So then we're at one oval here. Guess what we got over here? Another oval. All right, and once again, we don't need the whole oval. And so we're just going to erase, actually we're not going to erase a whole lot on that oval. Now keep in mind, I am still kind of keeping this straight edge on the muzzle here because this actually doesn't curve totally in. Now this is starting to look a little bit more like a dog. We're looking at some pretty big lines here. All right, so I've got two shapes here for this ear. So what we need to do is we need to go in and we need to establish this set of lines here. Okay, this is where this ear kind of comes down, and then you've got the ruff that comes out from underneath the ear here. And then you also have the outside of the ear here, which creates another shape. So that's why animals with long, fluffy ears can be really confusing and hard to track. So if you're wondering where I got that from, we're looking at the highlights and the shadows and the shapes. Okay, so even though that they're not perfect triangles, each one of these kind of makes a kind of a curved triangle or a wave or a wiggle. But the overall shape that we're looking at, and this is where we're getting into that positive and negative space. You kind of got a straight line here and then a curve in. So it's almost like an almond shape, except with this heart kind of here. So you could almost go like a heart shape. We can go like this. But then it would be really tempted if you do that to want to like make it shaded here like a heart. And you would have a highlight here rather than a shadow, and so that can get really rather confusing. So we're not going to use a default heart shape because it's very easy to get trapped into what most people consider a heart shape 3D model to be. So for the base of the ear, we've got another circle, okay? And again, we're not needing the whole thing. So once we get down to here, we're just going to grab that, and we're just following the lines of the ear. When we get to the primary shape of the ear, we're going to go with an upside down almond shapes because we do need to retain that point, but again, we don't need the whole thing. So we're just going to keep that much of it. And I know it's going to bug somebody that there is this huge gap here. And I'm okay with that because right now it's really hard to define whether or not what hair is coming from the ear and what hair is coming from the ruff. So we're just going to kind of leave that kind of a misnomer for right now. We're going to keep moving on. The far ear, which is over here, guess what? It's another oval, but again, still don't need this whole shape. So we're just gonna kind of cut it that far, okay? Now we're not getting into texture or movement. We're just working on real simple shapes. All right, so now we've got this 3/4 view, and we're going to go back down to our drawing, because I just really want to move that up so I can stop going through this. All right, so now that we're here, we kind of have to establish where the eyes are. So your eye level is here. Actually, that's not quite level, so it's kind of here. So we're going through both pupils and both corners of the eye. Now we're not looking at the tear duct, which is over here, just the pupil and the corner of the eye, okay? So that's your level shot. And you're looking at this general shape. Now this may be deceptive, but it's actually not a perfect circle. And we're going to zoom in so that we can get a better view on this. So it's not quite a perfect circle, and it's not really an ellipse either. So it's kind of like like a circle that's slightly pinched on the ends, almost like a teardrop. Hold that thought. Okay, so we're back. So I had to stop and I went on the internet because to me an oval and an ellipse are the same thing, but according to the internet, an oval is pinched on one end because to me that's like an almond shape. So according to the internet of all things, an oval and an almond shape are very similar. What they don't have is a decent name for an ellipse that is very tapered on both ends and not necessarily symmetrical. So this is going to maybe have to be a shape that maybe somebody might have to learn because it isn't symmetrical, and eyes can be deceiving in that way, where the corner of the eye and the tear duct are not going to be symmetrically at the same height in the center of your eye. Your tear duct is always going to be lower at a lower degree. If you divided it up like a clock, would probably be the best way I can describe this. So if the top of your eye here is noon, and then this is 6 o'clock, your outer corner of your eye is about 9 o'clock, and if it was straight across, your tear duct would be at 3 o'clock, but the tear duct is actually closer to about 4, maybe 4:30, depending on the breed and the angle. So it's not quite an ellipse, it's not quite an almond or an oval. This has kind of got its own little thing, and my best way to say to do it is to actually not start with that particular shape. This is how I learned to draw eyes. So I drew the pupil or the iris first, okay? Because drawing circles is easy. We all learned how to draw circles in grade school. And then fixating the pupil, and even on this one, you can see that I kind of suck because I didn't quite get it right. It's kind of closer to there. Okay. So then once you get these two going, then it's much easier to go in and Let's go with a smaller. It's much easier to come off of the outside of the iris and then just come down, and then this becomes your lid, and this is your corner of your eye, and then you follow your iris circle down to about 4 o'clock, and then this becomes your tear duct. So it's like a triangle. So you're there with your triangle kind of shape. This side of your triangle's down, then it comes down. Except that you have to explode and round out the sides of your triangle and your lower lid, because keep in mind your eye is a round shape and it comes out. So your eye, if you were looking at it from the side, comes out like this, and then your eyelid comes underneath it, and then your upper lid comes down like this, which is why it bows out in the bottom and it goes up in the top. All right? Okay. So that is why your eye shape is always really kind of weird. It's this weird shape. It's not quite an ellipse. It's not quite an almond shape. It's this undescribable eye shape. So we have that. All right, so there is that shape. We are almost done. We have just one more. So then we just have to, well, technically two. So then we have your far eye over here, and of course, just whoops, just like the other one, we do not need the whole thing, so we can erase that. And actually, we are missing a second one, and that would be the pupil. And I don't have all of my snifty little shapes, so we're just gonna say like right here, and this is such a heavy point size marker for this. So then, oops, undo. So then that would be kind of your shape for your pupil on the far side. Again, this is because of foreshortening. You're not going to get your total circular shape on the far side of the face. So the only thing that I would probably change is that, oops, we haven't quite established, and this is where you kind of have to freehand it, the back part of the nose. So this kind of confuses some people because this is the top of the nose, and actually the top of the nose is right like this. So it's kind of like this hokey, curved triangle. All right, and this kind of comes down to the front of the nose. And then you have this part here that comes up and around, and it kind of makes this shape right here. So your actual nose, it's kind of like a question mark, so it kind of comes up like this, and where you would go down for a question mark, instead you're going to kind of keep going sideways. And then this, where it was, that's going to come down and go this way, okay? And this kind of goes off back around the face. Like a kidney shaped. Alright, so then we're going to do the other one, and this is kind of like an actual kidney shape where you learn kidneys in school, little bean. Okay, so we're just going to denote that. Now you know how this comes around here? Well, again with foreshortening, because once again this is going to come around here, okay? Because they're going to kind of mirror each other. And then this kind of does this kind of thing. Alright, so now when we go down to our nose, where's our nose? There's our nose. We can go in with a much smaller eraser, and we can get rid of some of this, because we don't need this either. So now our nose looks better. So we've got all of this right here. And that is a total of 17 shapes, so not including this pupil right here. We'll just kind of erase that because it looks pretty ridiculous just being all red. It's kind of remind me of Pennywise here for a little bit here, so no doggies seeing red. Here we go. Gonna have to remember which one I saw this on. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to back this up. Where are we? Magnifying glass. Alright, so now we've got that. Now watch this, because that's 17 shapes, and that's kind of the beginning of a dog. It really, really is. I'm going to make it look more like a dog. We just have to go through and reiterate some of our other things. So what looks really ridiculous right now in here is the fact that our rough line, which denotes our rough, doesn't give you any indication of what it is. It looks like this dog is wearing a bib. The shape of the skull and the shape of the muzzle is really well defined. The eyes are lightly sketched in. But the rest of this is very much guidelines. So let's get away from the guidelines and let's get back into actually drawing this. So here, whoop. Okay, so here to here, and here. Oop, damn it. Alright, let's go here to here. And then merge layers. There we go. Alright, so now we're going to go into our drawing layer. And what we need to do is kind of reinforce some of these other lines, because right now they just look really, really, really balloony. So we're going to go in with our eraser. And oops. Why are you doing that? Don't do that. Okay. What? What are you doing? I want you to erase things on this layer. There we go. Alright, so now we need this line to look more like a sketch and less like an actual line. So this is where you get the difference with artist sketching and then a final drawing. So we're going to kind of get a little bit into the sketching aspect. So we're looking at creating some of these shapes that are like here. And if you notice, I'm not trying to be real exact. And this is kind of a rough kind of thing. Okay. And so then we kind of put some lines here. So then we're kind of indicating that we know that they double as both lines of motion, and they also help kind of illustrate a notation of texture. Alright, so then what else do we need? We need to kind of make this less cartoony. So we'll get this up here like this. We're going to go with our eraser and kind of make this maybe a little less heart-shaped, a little bit less of a hard line. Okay, alright. And actually, I'm sure there's somebody who's thinking that this is kind of a hack, and so I'm probably like tracing it. Okay. What the hell? What the hell? Alright, so let's see if we can't move this. Alright, we're gonna go here with this. Alright, so let's go here. Let's go in with a little bit more detail. So let's get rid of this right here, because this kind of visually carries everything through. Alright, so then what you have is this line kind of makes it look a little cartoony. We're going to get rid of this. Okay. And what we're going to do instead is that what it does is that this line here that comes into the head, and it meets here, and there's this big giant kind of, there's a thing here. Do you see it? Okay, so the skull comes back here. Okay. And then it's almost like the fur comes down, kind of like here. And then it kind of comes down. So we got this point in the lip here, and then the chin that comes down here. You've also got, this is more of a straight line. So we can go in and we can get rid of that. Okay. Need to go in and kind of establish. Now the reason I stopped the line where I did is because we need to get this going right here, where this lip kind of comes over and the bottom lip just kind of comes down. Okay, so that's kind of like a little teardrop kind of shape. All right. So then let's see, we're looking at the corner of the eye and here. So we're right about here. And we kind of get this kind of thing going on here. Okay. All right, so then we're, again, this is our guideline here. And they're just that, they're guidelines, nothing is in concrete. All right, so now we've got these lines here. And this is where I say this area here was a little bit muddled. And now that we're kind of getting into that, we have one strand here, which kind of, it's right here, it's just kind of hanging out of the darkness. And then once you get into here, you have these strands that come up and they create a lot of motion, but they also put a lot of empty space. So this is your positive and negative space right here, okay? So you got your positive and negative space. So this is all your foreground here. And this is why it's hard to kind of discern, because once you get into this, this all goes back and you have the hard line here of the ear flap. So we know this is kind of a discerning shape here now. And we can discern this here, but everything back here, it's hard to know how far it goes back. You can see the pink of the skin once you kind of zoom in, but beyond that, you have a couple of shapes that go that way. You have this ruff that goes this way, and then the rest of this kind of makes this squiggle, which is really, this can be very, very hard to defer what is what. All right. So we are gonna get rid of all of this. Erase, erase. This is looking like a play for a football game. Can't have that kind of silliness. All right. So back to this. Let's go here with this. And then we've got a few strands that come down like this. Okay, this kind of comes down like this. One of the things I like about this is it kind of differs between the bunch that is attached to the base of the ear and that which kind of comes up behind the ear. So this is right now really being appreciated by me personally. Okay, and then this right here is very much, it's out of focus. And we can go back in and really retool the textures that are going on here. Because we don't need this. Now you do have kind of a line here, so it kind of goes like this, and like this, and then like this, and then like this. And then you're back into kind of like these squiggly things. And you get back to here again where you're back into the squiggle and these kind of fun shapes. But now you have to kind of figure out what is going on with what again. Because this also comes in this way. So this whole ear can be kind of a nightmare. talking about the making that make sense. All right, so let's deal with our friend the rough again. It's the rough. All right, so what we need to do is carry the chaos that is this part of the long, shaggy part of the ears, and actually this isn't even long enough, is it? No, it's not. It actually comes all the way down here. Okay, and then this part of the jaw here is going to come down with some negative shadow here. So that's going to kind of create a triangle. And then these lines are going to keep coming down at the rough, and these are going to kind of carry your motion lines and create these shapes. And of course, you're still dealing with positive and negative space. So you're still dealing with like triangles here of darkness and you know, shapes like this, which are kind of like wonky little crescent moon shapes that help carry your motion through the rough. So I'm going to take, oops, where am I? Oh, we're going to take this, we're going to drag it this way again. God bless America. Nope. I do want this. I'll line this back up. Yep, we're going to leave it there. So now we're here, and we're just carrying these lines here. Now, oh, see, like I was wrong. Here, shadow was right there and there, and then. The rest of it I was pretty okay on. Alright. Nope. So then, in order to push this part of the muzzle forward, we need to make sure that we have a really dark shadow under here. So we want to look at our... Usually it's a fairly curved line. It's really hard to have a line that's not curved once you're talking about animals, and that's, I think, part of what makes doing perspective on animals so incredibly hard, is that it's a lot of curved edges, so what is foreshortened and what is just actually proportionate can be really, really hard to understand. Whoops, I'm on the wrong layer. Alrighty, so now we're in here. Alright, so now we need more rough. Okay, so now you've got this ear back here, you've got the line that's hardly defined, and now we're curved lines backwards. So, like a comma, because we're going to carry this motion here, and then this also comes out this way. So don't be too afraid to have lines that go both ways, like, because you can have that. Now, having said that, it's really easy to get crazy with hair that goes every which way. So in this case, you have hair that goes literally this way, this way, and then it comes out this way. That is way too confusing and doesn't end to a nice tip, all right? And realistically, this is the real true difference between, you know, drawing and painting, and whether or not you're painting is totally realistic, or if you're making artistic interpretations, which is a thing. Honestly, at this point, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking at this line, and I'm looking at this line, and they both come together. So chances are I will take and I will do this, and then I will take and do this, and then I will take and do this. And then this one will literally tuck under here, and it will make sense. And it makes kind of that heart thing where the heart goes like this and like this. It makes a bow tie. Okay, now this dog looks like it never sleeps, and nobody should ever have that much Starbucks. So we're gonna do this again. All right. So when you're looking at this eye right here, and I know there's a lot of squiggles here, so hang on, folkies. Hang on to my little brains. Hang on, don't go anywhere. Up and up too high. Can't do that. All right, you guys are gonna have to deal with it. All right. So this dog looks like it's just, it does like either an 8-ball of Coke every morning, or maybe it drinks Starbucks on a regular basis, and that's not how it is at all, except that this is the shape of the eye, and now we just have to dial it in. So how do you dial it in so it looks more natural? So what you're lacking is you're lacking this area here. So right about here, down here, and then back up. Okay, that's probably not even enough. Okay. And then that same kind of thing comes up here, then goes down here, and here. So if you ever look at how animators that are doing 3D animations for like Jurassic Park or Shrek go, and they go through and they're looking at basic computer models, and they'll show you how the computers come up with computer animation for 3D models, especially for CGI and cinematographics. They'll show you what the computer's coming up with planes of things. And this right here, this one right here is actually a curved plane, and you can't see that because it's all dark. But let's try this out. What's going on is that you actually have hairs that are coming up and going this way. And they're coming up and they're going this way. So this is actually a curved plane. This is nice and tucked in right behind the eyelid. And of course then, if you've ever watched any of the videos that I've ever had, you know that this right here is all dark. Okay. So then this, let's get on the right layer so we can actually do this. So then this right here is actually coming out and is a combination of this plane here, which actually comes down here. Okay, so it's more like this. And then you have this plane here, which is the top of the face. Okay? Cheekers. Jiminy crickets. I didn't mean to throw that whole thing out. Alright. So. And then now all we need to do is kind of do the same thing over here. So the point of the muzzle ends here, then we're just going to kind of take it up and over. Not used to drawing with the computer. This goes a lot faster when I'm, oops. When I'm doing it with the classic pen and paper. So this is actually really hard for me. Okay, so then this kind of comes up here, and then again it comes up here because this is the like the upper brow part, and then it actually goes all the way to the edge here, even though it kind of comes out in two different pieces. So here's the funny part about all this. Okay, so this actually will go all the way to the end here. As well this, so we're going to color this in because otherwise it's going to be really distracting. And I won't be able to focus. It'll be a very horrible thing for me. Ooh. Alright, and then see, like right now this dog looks really, really angry, and part of it is the fact that what I'm not conveying the lines of motion. So it just looks like it's got some really, really heavy brows, and it kind of does, and it kind of doesn't. So now that we're here with this, what we don't see is that there's this eyelid here, and it comes out like this, and then this comes up like this. And this isn't quite just a straight line, because you see it kind of come in and then go down, and it kind of comes out for the brow a little bit. Oops. I kind of erase this here. So this is where Disney kind of gets the whole thing with eyebrows, is they get them from dogs. We do want to kind of get this line of motion going. So we've got a heavier line here, and this is where your tear duct is. So we're just going to make a donation like that. And then this right here is all kind of curved. Let me get for a finer line here. Here, like this, that. Just like that. And then these lines are going to carry down into the sides of the muzzle. Go up to our, there we go, heavier pen. Okay, get a little bit of shadow. Oop. Looking more at my reference picture than I have what I'm doing. And again, it's that heavy, heavy shadow you need. And then this is that curved line. Now, if you want the dog to seem a little bit more relaxed, and flatten that out. But the problem is you can easily get a very hard line on this when you do that. which is something I would heavily avoid. So then don't forget to give your, oops. See, again, I'm looking at my reference picture and not what I'm drawing. Oop. That's what happens when your reference picture is. Oops. Too many layers, too many layers! Okay. See, if you break this stuff up, like, oop, I'm just gonna combine these two because this is just irritating. Merge. There. It's less irritating now. Alright, so then we're just gonna kind of come up like this. Here we go. And now it seems less. Quite a bit less. Less cartoony and more realistic. This line here is a little bit unrealistic. So we're gonna get rid of that and make this straighter. Okay, so let's go with, we need the straight line right up the middle of the nose. God, you would think I would be drinking with the way I'm drawing. Oh my goodness, I just... Okay. And then this one also, it comes down. Older dogs get lots of wrinkles in their nose, just like sweet little old ladies. They get wrinkles in their nose. Don't you judge a dog by how many wrinkles its nose has got. If it bites you, I'm not responsible. Put that black in there. Alright, so we got this. Now, this line is accurate. However, we aren't really accounting for like where the fur's going. So if we do, then it will be a lot easier on us. Same thing over here. The line is fairly accurate, but we're not really accounting for where any of the fur is going, okay? And the other thing is that with here, it doesn't have any connection. So we kind of have to have it kind of come down and then the lip comes up. We have to figure out where the fur is going. Alright, now we're here. Now we're on this lip. Alright, so then this chin comes here. So this here is all like upper lip, it's shadowy. And we're in again with the little itty bitty bloody hairs. See, just like that. See? Let's go down. Itty bitty bloody little boovy hairs, which kind of break up that cartoony look. Okay? By doing that, what you're doing is you're breaking up the profile of it being a smooth surface, and that's what gives it that cartoony feel, is that real smooth, slick surface. Feels more organic would be a good way of putting it. Even here, with this here, there. If you do that, then that still feels more organic. Now, here's the goofy thing about this area of the eye, because we are right there again. So your fur that is here, the fur that is on the top of the nose goes this way. No. Somewhere along the lines, it also goes this way. When you're here, it goes this way. When you're here, it goes that way. When you're here, it goes that way. When you get down here, it goes that way. Right here, coming out of the eye, remember, it comes toward this arrow. So what you've got is a huge conflict of interests. And what happens when these two little lines of fur meet is that you get a ridge of fur. So here you would wind up, whoops, wrong one. Boop, boop, boop. So you wind up with, oops, that's still too fat. Can't quite get that right. Alright, so you wind up here with this, and you wind up with that. And what you can do is kind of illustrate a changing of the guard, as it were, with the hairs, which kind of reinforces this, depending on how the lighting is. So with every dog, they're going to have a dip in their skull right here between their eyes, in the perfect center between their eyes. And so you can definitely kind of just re-illustrate that. If the lighting allows. If not, then focus on your shapes. And then add your texture in. And this is why it's so important to make sure that when you're doing pets and you're doing furry animals, to make sure that you're following your the way your fur goes. So we can get rid of this right here. I just noticed is still here from earlier. Oh, and here's the thing. Yeah, so then the nose doesn't come up like this. So remember how I said I kind of left that alone? And that's because it's true, it doesn't just drop off. So you see this area here? That's what I'm talking about. So, yep. That's what it looks like. The nose isn't just like this bulb on the end of a face. It is supported by the rest of the muzzle. So it does come right up to the edge of the muzzle and then comes up and around. So you're looking at, where's my cursor? This edge right here, which does come out, but then you have support within the structure of the face for the muzzle and the nose to connect. All right, so this, again, cartoony. How do you get rid of the cartoony? You get rid of the cartoony by breaking up the profile. You could even do it here. All right. This side of the ear, I kind of like that, kind of sketchy like that. This nose just needs to get a little bit more rounded and less angled. Okay. All right. So So let's back this up. Look at it one more time. Nope, wrong way. All right. So. Now. That's not too bad for like a rough sketch. So we got 17 shapes. And that's the rest of this is rough sketching, just kind of connecting your dots. And then again, if you want things to look less cartoony, then break up your strong accent lines with just literally making them hashes and sketches, because that's going to break up that kind of cartoony figure that they've got. So that would be this little Pomeranian mix. We're going to take her away. I think actually I'm going to take and I'm going to drag her back to where she kind of... So not too bad. Pomeranian. And then that's the drawing. So not too bad. It's good bones for a drawing. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope this was kind of fun. I could say now I've gotten more use out of this picture than I planned on it. Don't know that I got as much as I was hoping out of it, but I've got a few more dog portraits lined up. If you guys got any questions, and just in case anybody's wondering, these are all the different shapes that we're looking at for doing these little shape breakdowns with. So you've got an almond shape, so you're rounded on one end, tipped on the other. A cylinder, your cat is kind of like a rounded out triangle. An egg, or an ellipse, or an oval. It was an oval that looks like an egg to me. Your eye, which is that kind of 9 o'clock and 4:30 pointed circle. The hoof is more like a trapezoid. We'll get into that when we get into horses. A long ear is basically the same as the cat ear, just elongated. I also did put a round bottom with an oval on it so that you could tell the concave and convex aspect of that ear. An oval, which is, okay, it's an oval. Then you got your rectangle, small circles, trapezoids. And trapezoids 1 and 2 are for perspective, so they are going in front and away from you. Now, since I have Photoshop open, I just want to point this out. Now, this could be something that's going to really, really hurt somebody's head. Or it's going to be one of those things where it's like, man, trippy. Or somebody's going to go, why the hell am I looking at this? And the reason that you're the hell looking at this is because I want this to be able to help you guys tell your perspectives on your animals. So you have your first square here, so imagine this being just like the way you are seeing right now. So if this is the center of your gaze, this is the center of your square, then this is the center of your perspective. Savvy? Okay. If you have an animal coming at you and it's at the center of your perspective, then it would be represented by the rectangle that's in the back. Okay? Anything that's coming toward you, which is going to be not dead on, is either going to be coming at you to the right or to the left. And in that way, shape, or form, it's going to be following your angles of perspective right and left. Okay, that way, do you see this purple box that's kind of popped up here? That then becomes the front of your new object from the same 3/4 perspective. So this box here is really going to kind of help you start to look at things as they are in reality rather than how you are perceiving them. So straight back is straight. If it's square on, you can know that it's square on. If it's not sitting, if it's at 3/4 angle, you can kind of figure out that there is some foreshortening in there, and it's okay for that. Once we get into perspective again, we're going to learn it with shooting above and below rather than this box right here, and we can manipulate this with Photoshop. It's really kind of nice. With are you shooting above it, are you shooting below it, and we really don't have to get too in-depth with are you shooting off to the right or the left, or are you dead on with it. So this box right here covers your half perspective, your dead on perspective, and your 3/4 perspective from straight on. So this will be some fun when we get there. But let's get there first, okay? So you get to look at that down the road. Let me know if that gets too confusing. If I got too far off track, let me know. But for now, we did get this done. Yay! We drew a dog. 17 shapes, and an hour later, we drew a dog. Yay! And so from this drawing, literally, you can go through and you can do exactly what I do on these other tutorials. It just baffles the crap out of some people, and they're just like, okay, I feel like I walked into the middle of a class and not at the beginning of the class. So now you guys know where some of this stuff comes from. Thanks for watching. Let me know how if you got lost, let me know where you got lost. If you got bored, if you left, then you can't really be listening to this, but it was nice having you here. Don't forget to visit next time and be bored again. And if you want to see more, leave a comment in the notes. If you want to be up on the latest, don't forget to like and hit the notification tab. I haven't been really telling anybody to make sure that they click on the bell so they get notifications, and hopefully this one will get a lot of likes and questions and comments and feedback and shares, and then hopefully we can do another one, because there's nothing like spending a whole lot of time doing these videos and then nobody's watching and then I get discouraged. So check you later. Thanks a lot. Bye.